It was October 3, 1966, when a three-seater car that looked like a spaceship appeared on the Pininfarina stand at the 33rd Paris Motor Show. The car was a special model built on the mechanical base of the 365 P2 racing car, which featured a tubular steel trellis chassis and a 4.4-liter single-cam V12 engine producing 380 horsepower. Enzo Ferrari was very reluctant to grant the Turin coach builder the mechanical parts for a car competing in the 1965 Sport Prototype World Championship, but he has received the order from two people he could not refuse. The first, Gianni Agnelli, who had recently become the new president of the Fiat company, with which Ferrari had recently signed an agreement for the production of the 2-liter Dino V6 engine. This agreement would allow to Ferrari to quickly homologate the V6 engine for the Formula 2 World Championship. He needed the Fiat support because he was able to produce the 500 engines necessary for the homologation in a short time. The second was the Ferrari importer of the United States, Luigi Chinetti, former Ferrari driver, owner of a Chinetti Motor Company of New York, and founder of the North American racing team, whose 365 P2 had just achieved the 4th place at the 24 Hours of Daytona. The white sample shown in Paris was his car. However, to transform a racing car into a road car, several modifications were necessary. First of all, the chassis wheelbase was lengthened for 2,400 mm to 2,600 mm to make the cockpit more spacious. The four-wheel independent suspension was obtained by modifying the front suspension of the 250 Le Mans model, while the rear suspension was modified from the P2 racing model, also adding anti-roll bars. The four-wheel disc brakes were supplied by the English company Dunlop, and the 5-spoke rims in special alloy with central bolt were supplied by the Turin-based company Cromodora. To make the centrally mounted engine more manageable, the original 6 Weber 38 DCN carburetors were replaced with 3 Weber 40 DFI ones, and the compression ratio was reduced from 9.1 to 8.1, thus reducing power by approximately 60 horsepower. At this point, the mechanical parts were moved to Grugliasco near Turin, where Pininfarina began studying possible body shapes. The task of developing the project was entrusted to designer Aldo Brovarone, then head of the technical office. Brovarone's choice was no coincidence, as in addition to his expensive experience in the sector, he had already participated in all the Ferrari custom-built projects previously commissioned by Gianni Agnelli: the 375 America in 1955, the 250 Gran Turismo Special in 1958, and the 400 Super America in 1959. And the fact that he was also entrusted with this fourth project is clearly demonstrated by the choice of lines adopted for the bodywork, where his pencil stroke is unmistakable in every corner. Especially the 365P takes inspiration from two Dino prototypes. The SP Special Berlinetta, introduced at the Paris Motor Show in 1965, and the Gran Turismo Special Berlinetta, introduced at the Turin Motor Show in 1966. In fact, the common features are immediately recognizable: the horizontally narrowed grille, the low beltline with the lateral ridge and the aerodynamic air intakes in the sides, the pronounced fenders, the headlight with teardrop-shaped purpose covers, the truncated tail, and the concave rear window. These last two details were already present on both Agnelli 375 America and the Fiat 8V bodied by Pininfarina for Giovanni Nasi in 1955, even though these two cars had the engine positioned at the front and not mid-mounted like the 365P. Given the height of the carburetors, engineer Renzo Carli suggested Brovarone to apply a small dome to the hood using the same modification adopted for the Gran Turismo Special Berlinetta design. Inside, 3 seats were installed with the driver in a central forward position while the gear stick was positioned on the right-hand side of the floor. Essentially, the central driver's position might have seemed a novelty for a road car completely, but Brovarone, as he himself confirmed to me during a conversation we had a few years ago, was familiar with the project by Mario Revelli di Beaumont, who in 1940 had designed and built a 3-seater city car with a central steering wheel, and so he wasn't surprised at all. In reality, the choice to position the driver centrally was dictated by the shape of the chassis itself. The Ferrari 360 P2 racing car had a central driving position because it was essentially a single-seater. The steering column and the steering box were also centrally located due to the size of the racing tires, the location of the fuel tanks and the engine radiators. The problem with the road-going 360p was, if anything, the opposite. It was a matter of adding 1 or 2 passengers into the relatively small cockpit. Therefore, since it was not possible to change the geometry of the steering column for functional reasons, given that there was not enough space either on the right or on the left, the seats of the 2 passengers were housed in a rearward position in order to gain more legroom, even though this remained limited by the height of the internal wheel arches. The leatherette-covered dashboard featured a speedometer and tachometer behind the steering wheel, while the secondary instruments were located on the sides. The windows were electric. The car weighed a total of 1.20 kilos, almost 2,200 libras, unladen. The second model built for Chinetti, chassis number 8971, had a manual 5-speed transmission, a glass roof, the fuel filler cap was mounted on the left rear window, leatherette upholstery, and headlights compliant with the US regulation. Over time, Chinetti requested and obtained also some modification. The model commissioned by Agnelli, chassis number 8815 and first of the two, was equipped with a Sportomatic transmission produced in Germany by Porsche. Following a car accident occurred in 1952, Agnelli had irreparably injured his right leg and he was now driving only with his left. The 5-speed semi-automatic Sportomatic transmission used a torque converter and a clutch system connected to a servo motor that was controlled by lifting the gear knob. Furthermore, entry and exit to the cockpit were made easier by installing a 90-degree rotatable seat on the left, a technical solution patented by Mario Revelli di Beaumont in 1955, already adopted by Fiat for the 1100 Turismo Veloce Spider the same year. A fuel filler cap was mounted on the left pillar, as like as the 360 P2 racing car had. Also Agnelli, during his frequent visit to the Pininfarina workshop, requested to apply a transparent sheet of anti-UV polycarbonate on the roof to make brighter the small cockpit. The anti-UV polycarbonate is a synthetic material capable of reducing the heat caused by the sun rays. The sheet was ordered directly in German for Rom und Haas, the same company that patented plexiglass in 1933, with which Pininfarina had commercial relations since before the World War II. This request was not unusual because all the Agnelli's Ferrari coached by Pininfarina before had a transparent roof. For the interior, white fabric with black piping was chosen for the seats and the panel doors, made in the same pattern, but without the storage pouch. The car was then painted a light metallic gray, like its previous Ferraris. The presentation to Agnelli took place in secrecy at the Pininfarina factory in Grugliasco. where he requested a blue and green stripe be applied to the sides and a stainless steel rear spoiler. The color of the stripe has often been confused with the black stripe, likely due to the black and white photos. The blue and green stripe was adopted by Agnelli on all his silver Ferraris because this color represents those of the municipality of Sestriere, the ski resort on the Coccian Alps that was very dear to the Agnelli family, given that Gianni Agnelli's father, Edoardo, created his legend in 1930 and where Gianni learned to ski as a child under the guidance of the ski instructor and former Austrian champion Hans Nobel. His first Ferrari, the 166 Barchetta Mille Miglia chassis number 064M, was painted blue and green for just that reason. On February 1966, Agnelli collected his 360P. Like his previous Ferrari, which had the license plate Torino 333333, this also received an equally curious one, Torino 888888. On November, Fiat presents at the 48th Turin Motor Show the new Dino Spider model with a 2-liter engine born from the collaboration with Ferrari and the body by Pininfarina designed by Aldo Brovarone again. In the following years, Agnelli drove the 365P less than 10,000 kilometers. Usually Agnelli was the type who gets bored with the new things quickly, but this time he had two main issues. The Sportomatic transmission was not very efficient because the 4.5-liter engine had too much power, twice the Porsche 911S, so at high revs it became inefficient. Also, the transparent roof let the cockpit overheating too much, since the car had not an air conditioning unit, mostly because a real anti-UV protection is given by an orange glass and not by a transparent one. So, in 1970, the car was sold in the USA. Since then, it has changed over 7 times and has been restored 3 times, changing always the color, until in 2021, when the current owner, after complete restoration lasting 4 years, brought it back to its original condition. In 2022, he introduced again the chassis number 8815 in Turin, this time at the National Car Museum. Many thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share this video.